to the Prophecy Club. You know, we have had some really strange weather lately. Why is that? What is going on with the weather? Would you believe that there is a secret weapon that the Americans tried to perfect, but they couldn't perfect it? I understand that we have a basic math calculation in our understanding of math, and it will not allow us to calculate it out. However, the Russians don't have that problem. And the Russians have perfected this to the nth degree, and it may very well be, it certainly explains a lot of our strange weather. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about scalar wave. It was first invented by Nikola Tesla, and I'm about to have Bill Schnoebelen come on and tell you all about it, so I won't take all of his thunder. But the point is, this scalar wave can go around the globe, and it basically leaves one spot and then appears in another spot. It can make large amounts of the atmosphere very hot or very cold. Well, so what does that do? Well, you make something very hot, the very large amount of the atmosphere, and what do you cause? A tornado or a hurricane. Or you make it very cold and you bring in massive amounts of snow and ice and things like that. So that can really cause havoc in an economy and in a nation. And it is, let's put it this way, I'm not the only one that believes that the Russians have probably been using this on us and other nations for a long time. Then there's the other explanation about the birds. You remember, here a couple of years ago, there was reports of birds just falling, entire flocks, just falling out of the air, dead. They were dead by the time they hit the ground, okay? What is that? That can't be some disease. You can't get a whole flock of birds to die in mid-flight. And then, of course, we also had millions of fish washing up upon the shores of lakes and some streams. What is all that? Well, let me just explain. All of that can be caused by scalar wave. Scalar wave can destroy anything in the air, on the ground, on the sea, under the sea, any place on the globe, anytime they want, and here's the kicker, there's very little residue to let you know that this is what has done it. Matter of fact, there are a lot of people that believe that's what took out the Challenger, okay, scalar wave. Now, we're going to go over and listen to the audio of a DVD by Bill Schnoebelen called Russia's Secret Weapon to Defeat America. Now, when we made this DVD, we made it in a TV studio, and they put background music on part of my introduction, and I can't remove that, but I want you to hear this introduction. So we're going to start with my introduction, but you'll hear some background music on it. That's the music that we use for the TV program, and also the DVDs, or at least that's what we did at the time. But this information is really powerful and really important, so much so that instead of asking $30 for this DVD, you can get it today for only $15 by calling your Prophecy Club, 785-266-1112. More on that later. Now, Bill Schnoebelen in Russia's Secret Weapon to Defeat America. From the Dreamer Vision called The Beast Strikes, it says, his voice boomed at me, telling me to look to the right. I was awake, not sleeping. I was standing, and I turned my head as ordered. When I looked, I saw that there was a great flock of black birds with very sharp, large beaks. Out of the beaks came a blinding light. Now, folks, what he's talking about is birds that have, not just birds, it's actually airplanes that has a blinding light coming out of them. Okay, continue. Blinding light, which I could barely look at. From their tails, I saw flames of fire shooting out. I then became very scared. I rubbed my eyes thinking I was sleeping and dreaming. I was neither sleeping nor dreaming. In other words, it was a vision. This flock of birds suddenly turned into airplanes that did not make any noise. In other words, what this prophet of God was seeing is some kind of a new advanced Russian weapon. Airplanes that can fly through the air that do not make any noise. Does America have any airplanes that can fly through the air that doesn't make any noise? Not that I know of, anyway. That don't make any noise. And then from their tails, lightning or flames of fire shoot out. Now that sounds like it might be laser. Some kind of a new weapon. Some kind of a new airplane flies through the air silently that has a laser that can knock out anything else that is attacking it, whether it's a missile, ground-to-air missile, an air-to-air missile, or some kind of another plane. The American airplanes would go up trying to attack, but as they would draw close, they would fall to the earth in a blaze of fire. Folks, that is pretty dangerous to think that the Russians have some kind of an airplane that can fly silently and knock out anything that we throw at it. Okay, there's more. From Sanctify You and Yours, it said, "It seemed I was suddenly on an American airplane, which was about to land with me in California. I heard sirens which howled loudly, and a great sound of many engines, plane engines, was heard. The noise of the engines grew louder. The man beside me, the angel, the man beside me turned to me and said, 'These are planes loaded with atom bombs, and no one and nothing will be able to stop them.' Then suddenly a great number of black planes lifted off the ground like a flock of birds. I knew the planes were American. Once again, the American planes could do nothing. This kept kind of like grinding in my spirit. What is this? Does Russia have some kind of a new secret weapon where it would totally annihilate anything that we have in the way of an air force, so much so that they could fly airplanes filled with atom bombs over America and drop them at will, and we were helpless to stop them?" And this began to grind in my spirit, and it just wouldn't go away. And I dug this out and I read it again. And it was like God was just laying on my heart, I have to do something to expose this. And I thought, well, fine, I guess I'll research it, but I'm not really much of a technical person, and it would be very difficult for my brain, without the supernatural help of God, to remember all of those technical stuff. But I was determined to share with you what I think could be a prophet telling us that America is in serious trouble, that the Russians do have some kind of a secret weapon that can knock out anything in the air. And it just kept laying in my heart. And then I remembered someone mentioning something about scalar wave. And then I remembered I went to a website one night when I was searching for a speaker, and I found something about scalar wave on that website. So I went to the internet. Sure enough, I looked up scalar wave, popped up, and here was all kinds of stuff, exactly what they're talking about here. So I thought, well, I don't know if this is real or not, and I certainly don't want to be putting anything out that's not accurate. So I prayed, and I said, God, if this scalar wave is what's doing this, if this scalar wave is something that you want me to expose, then I need you to speak to me on it. And I said, I'd like for you to give me a dream on scalar wave. And this particular issue of the magazine, that dream is in its entirety, along with part of what I'm talking about here. I put the dream in the magazine, May-June 2005 issue. Here's the dream. I dreamed that I was sitting in my car along the side of the road. I walked over to my car and I sat down in my car. As I sat down, instantly the engine started. Well, I thought, I haven't even reached in. Sometimes you sit down in your car, you realize your keys are still in your pocket. I realized the keys are still in my pocket. The car started, and all of a sudden it started moving forward. I felt my keys in my pocket. So now it's going by itself. I push on the brake. It doesn't stop. I push on the brake again. It still doesn't stop. I stand on the brake. I look up. I'm coming to an intersection. Cars are going like this. And I kind of like time it because I couldn't stop the car. The car is going like this, and I timed it so I could move right between the cars, standing on the brake, lifting up on the steering wheel with all I could do. Finally, I was able to get the car to pull over and stop. And I stopped right in front of someone I knew. His name was, I think it was Jimmy Weathers. I'm having to do this from memory here. Jimmy Weathers. But I don't know a Jimmy Weathers. Okay, that has to do with the dream. He was bouncing a basketball with his son and playing basketball, and I thought, oh no, he knows about scalar wave. I've got to get out of here quick. So then I reached down and I put my keys in, I started the car, but as soon as the car started, he looked up and saw me. I quickly did a U-turn. Now I'm going back through that intersection again. As I'm heading toward the intersection, now I look up and there's this ball of energy in the sky. And this is the best way I know of to try to explain to you what that ball of energy looked like. It was about the size of a beach ball, maybe a little bit larger than a beach ball. On the inside of that beach ball, there was absolutely nothing. But on the outside of it, going in all direction, was like electricity, like little bitty lightning bolts. Have you ever seen these glass globes that have the lightning on the inside of it? You walk up and you can just touch it, and the lightning goes to your finger, like that. It was exactly like that, except for the lightning was on the outside of the ball, not on the inside of the ball. So anyway, I'm driving along and I looked up and I see this ball with all this lightning coming from it. Somehow I knew instantly that it was scalar wave, that it was after me. And I could tell also that it was searching. It was trying to hit me. And if it hit me, I knew that it would kill me. And so I was steering like this and steering like this to the left, to the right, and then I would slow the car down, and it looked like it took just a second for it to see where I was and then start coming at me again. And I would turn to the left, I'd speed up, and I'm doing like this to stay away from this thing. Finally, the dream ended. And I woke up and I said, Lord, went and got my tape recorder. I said, Lord, I have to know, what are you saying to me? And immediately the interpretation came to me. Here's what he's saying. Essentially, that scalar wave, that this sort of stuff, this high-tech things that we were discussing here, is real. That's the most important thing. I also think Jimmy Weathers, since I've never known anybody named Jimmy Weathers, I think that is saying that it controls the weather. It has to do with the weather. Now, I did not know that this ball of energy was in fact round. It could have been lightning, I don't know what. But in the dream, I saw it as a ball of energy. When I was interviewing Bill on the radio, he said, and it's a ball of energy. And I thought, yeah, that's right. That's a confirmation that the dream was from God, that it was showing me about scalar wave, and that I'm supposed to expose this. So at that point, I thought, well, I have two things that I can do. One is either I can spend some serious time researching this, try to put together a presentation on it, and expose scalar wave to people. But in order to do that, then I have to go out on a speaking tour. And I've got a ministry to run, and I'm real busy. And besides that, my brain just feels tired. I'm just, to be frank, honest with you. I mean, matter of fact, I've just given 3 presentations here the last 2 days, and I'm glad I didn't have to go out on tour. Lord, I'm pleased to serve anytime you send me, but I mean, I was tired. So I called Bill Schnoebelen. I said, Bill, this and such is all going on. Let me tell you about it. You ever heard of scalar wave? He said, what? I said, scalar wave. He says, no, I haven't. Well, after he got to researching it, he realized that he had heard of it. But at the time, he couldn't even remember. This is just to show you where he is. He couldn't even remember that he'd even heard of scalar wave. And I said, all right, here's the deal. I have talked to this guy. I found him on the internet. I've talked to this guy, and he is an expert on it. I am going to give you his name. I'm going to give you a stack of material. In addition to that, he is going to send you a stack of material, and he is going to inform you on everything you need to know to speak on scalar wave. Well, why can't he talk on it? He said this to me, quote, he said, I'm a brother in the Lord like you. He said, please do not tell anybody my name. He said, so far, they don't mind me putting on the internet, but they will not let me speak on the radio, on TV, do any kind of a public interview or a public speech or anything like that. And he says, please, I'm a brother in the Lord too. And he said, if you tell my name, I will be dead within 24 hours. And he said, please do not reveal my name. And so what we're revealing to you tonight is apparently some pretty important stuff, because I don't know if you knew this or not, but at least one of your meetings, a government official was at the meeting. Somebody might say, well, hey, doesn't that bother you? No, because I'd like for them to listen. As a matter of fact, what I'd like to see is President Bush invite me into the White House to speak and to tell him about these things. And what I want him to do is invite me there so I can reveal like Jonah did to the king. In other words, I don't want him to invite me there to play golf. I want him to invite me there, let me tell him what the word of the Lord is and what he must do if he wants to save his beloved America. And right now, I see that America is not taking even the slightest step in the right direction towards repentance. Right now, I have to say, everything that's been prophesied to come to pass about this nation certainly seems to be doing it. You can find it in Revelation 18, Isaiah 47, Isaiah 13, and Jeremiah 50 and 51. All of that is talking about America. Now, with that, let me introduce your speaker tonight. The topic of this video and also DVD is called Russia's Secret Weapon to Destroy America. And I think that we need to know how much trouble our nation is in. Your speaker has made the following videotapes for the Prophecy Club in addition to a very successful ministry of his own. He's made Exposing the Illuminati from Within, one of our most successful and popular videos. The Light Behind Masonry, Medical Conspiracy, How Jesus Sets the Captives Free, Islam, Israel, Biochemical Nuclear Terrorism, and What's Wrong with Mormonism. Will you help me welcome your speaker for this evening, Bill Schnoebelen. Bless you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Well, after that introduction, I think you all can understand this is some pretty significant and pretty serious stuff. What Stan mentioned is that I had to kind of search my memory to recall that actually I had heard of this stuff actually some 30 years ago. We had a gentleman in our coven. I used to be a high priest of witchcraft, among many other things, and he was an electrician about my age. I think he was born 48 or 49, and he believed he was a reincarnation of Nikola Tesla. And that name is going to be very, very significant tonight. And because of that, he was very interested in Tesla's work. He had, at that time, every book that he could find that was in print about Tesla, and he would often tell us about the amazing things this man achieved in his life. He died in 1943, the Tesla did. And so he was telling me about how this fellow had plans for a death beam that could take out thousands of airplanes at once, or free electrical power for everyone on Earth, how he invented the science of robotics, and so on. And so, you know, at that time, I don't know if he actually used the word scalar weapon or scalar energy, but I know he was talking about energy from the vacuum. And that's what we're going to be speaking about tonight. So I had some background in it, but of course my main thrust in my ministry is, of course, Bible preaching and apologetics. So this is a little different for me tonight. I ask you to bear with me. This is a very important point you all need to remember. This is a statement by an eminent scientist in 1899. Everything that can be invented has been invented. Now, I don't know if anybody here can remember 1899. I kind of doubt it. But I know in my relatively short life, I can remember hundreds of inventions, and some of them remarkable, like the personal computer, like the internet, like, color television, or putting a man on the moon. So obviously this guy was wrong. And that's the problem, see. Most people don't understand that science is a religion, just like any other. Some scientists are almost like cultists. And when I say that, I'm not being disrespectful, I'm just telling you the way it is. Because scientists have these beliefs, and many of those beliefs have no more basis in fact than the beliefs of any other religious system. Just as one example, 50 years or so before this statement, scientists were warning that we'd better not use trains, because everyone understands that if the human body goes faster than 40 miles an hour, your head will explode. Now that was scientific dogma. They also, of course, said that man would never fly. They said in the 1950s man would never go to the moon, and so on and so on. So obviously science has these faulty beliefs, and if you come along with something that is heterodox or heretical to those beliefs, like, for instance, Mr. Tesla, they'll tend to just kind of shove you down the memory hole. So that is the problem, is that America has basically ignored some of these technological advances, and as we'll see tonight, Russia has not. The other thing that's interesting is this particular scripture, Revelation 11:18, has been kind of floating around between Stan and I concerning this entire issue, and especially the last clause, where it talks about those which destroy the earth. Now that's interesting, because most of us will read that passage and they'll think, oh, well, we have nuclear weapons, or we're talking about an environmental catastrophe or something like that where we'll destroy the earth. But actually that's not true. None of those things can destroy the earth. They can make the surface of the earth miserable You can have nuclear winter or fallout, and basically the only thing that's left alive on the Earth are cockroaches. But the Earth itself is fine. So what does this refer to? Well, to decode this, we have to go back to Mr. Tesla again. And he made a statement like 70 years ago where he said if you understand the principles of magnetic resonance, you could split the Earth in two like an apple. Split the entire planet in two like an apple. Now that's destroying the Earth, amen? I mean, that's much more than just, having a nuclear fallout land on everybody. So then he was again discussing this many years ago. So I think this is what that applies to. Now, what are these weapons really? Well, first of all, we all understand normal weaponry, like a gun. You fire a projectile out of the gun, it's propelled by gunpowder, it travels, it hits its target. Or bombs. We understand those things. They're physical. Also, they've been around for generations. But these are called energetics weapons, and that's the Russians coined that phrase. Another term that we use here in America is DEW, or directed energy weapons. The big difference is that these weapons fire energy rather than a physical projectile. And so we're kind of in the realm of ray guns, if you will, things like that. And the problem that we have is that most of these weapons function in a way that's contrary to the accepted concepts of physics as they're taught in the West. Instead, they rely on the latest concepts, at least to us, of quantum physics. Now, what's quantum physics? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but essentially it's a variety of physics that deals with subatomic, submolecular, the very tiniest particles that are out there, down at the very, protons, neutrons, electrons, quarks, charm quarks, neutrinos, croutons, protons, etc. See, I threw in the croutons to see if you're paying attention. And all of these move in a fashion that at times seems counterintuitive to the way we think the world works. Just as one example, there's a subatomic particle called the neutrino, which is able to travel through a light year of lead instantly, just like that. Now, that's supposed to be impossible. That's supposed to be contrary to all known laws of physics. But it winks out of existence in our universe, and microseconds later, it winks back into existence somewhere else. Very strange particle. And it's this kind of spooky stuff that is what we're dealing with here tonight. Now, these weapons are beyond Star Trek. Now, I'm using Star Trek because it's very well known. I'm sure probably most of you have at least seen one episode of Star Trek. I don't care how sanctified you are. And, the little spaceships flying through the sky, like that with lasers or phasers or whatever they are. That stuff is like buggy whips. And this stuff is like a Maserati that we're talking about tonight. So this stuff is so advanced that even most science fiction writers haven't used it as, and it certainly, to my knowledge, has never appeared in any science fiction film. Okay, what are energetics? Well, we all kind of understand electromagnetic energy. It's what runs virtually everything we have. I mean, from our homes, our cars, whatever. And electromagnetic energy travels in transverse waves. And everybody understands that, no contest. However, scalar waves are of a different variety. They are longitudinal in nature. That means they go in the opposite direction. And in scalar mode, electromagnetic energy can be changed into gravitational energy, and vice versa. Now, that's a little hard to understand, and I want to apologize. The next few of these slides are going to be a little bit dense in terms of physics, but I'll try and get through them and make it as easy as you can. Gravitation is not readily understood. We more or less understand electromagnetism, but we know gravity works. I mean, we know if we take an apple and drop it, it'll fall to the earth. But why does that happen? Well, Einstein, many years ago, came up with a postulation. He said the entire earth, or the entire universe for that matter, is one big sphere. It's like a giant bubble that's hollow inside. And that when you have a large mass, like a planet or a star or something of that nature, in space, it causes a dimple in the fabric of space. It causes a little divot, if you will, like that, those of you that are golfers. And that is called a gravity well. And so if something comes along, like a comet or whatever, and it hits the edge of this gravity well, it starts going into this circular motion, just like in your bathroom sink. If you put a marble in your bathroom sink, it'll go around and around and around, and eventually it'll come right to the drain. That's what happens with a meteor. It will go around and around the Earth and eventually hit the Earth's atmosphere and hopefully burn up. So that was Einstein's explanation for gravity. And the way we know it's true is some years after that, they took a picture of a solar eclipse. Now that's where you have the moon coming between us and the sun. Okay, so you see this black circle with these prominences, the solar corona flaring up around it. And what they noticed was something really astonishing. They could look at that black disk that was inside the sun, or appeared to be. You know what they saw? They saw a star inside of that black disk. And that told them that Einstein was right. You know why? Because what had happened is that the starlight was coming into the sun's gravity well, and it bent around the sun and came out the other side. So to us, on Earth, it appeared as though the line went straight through the sun, and we were actually seeing through the sun. Actually, the sun was able to bend light. Now that sounds really bizarre to people that live on the Earth in the real world, you know. But if you're an astrophysicist, that's common knowledge nowadays. So think of it as something that is very mysterious, that can even bend the very fabric of light. Now, this energy exchange that we're talking about between electromagnetic and electrogravitic energy can be localized or aimed to a specific location. In other words, you can target things with it. Scalar waves don't exist in our normal world normally. They are in the vacuum of space. They exist in the dimension of time. And since the vacuum of space exists everywhere, scalar waves can draw on vast amounts of energy. This is called energy from the vacuum, or zero-point energy.
I'm going to interrupt the broadcast right there because I want to give you the opportunity to get this DVD. It is awesome. It's called Russia's Secret Weapon to Defeat America by Bill Schnoebelen. Normally a gift of $30, but if you call today, you can get it for a gift of just $15. Call 785-266-1112. I don't think it's on the website for that price. You'll probably have to call 785-266-1112. Russia's Secret Weapon to Defeat America. Gift of $15 or more. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. I've heard the testimonies of over 35 different people that have died and gone to heaven. But I think Dean Braxton's testimony is the best, simply because he spent the most time there. He spent 1 hour and 45 minutes in heaven. He tells you what Jesus and the Father and the throne looks like, and our new Jerusalem and our mansions, whether it's a pyramid or it's a square. Everything is based on love and is alive. How we communicate, whether we talk or just by thoughts, how we move, do we walk or do we fly, our relationships with our families and others, and our glorified bodies and garments and what they look like. Normally valued at $30, but you can call a Prophecy Club and get it right now for just a gift of $15 or more. That's 785-266-1112. I spent 45 minutes in heaven by Dean Braxton. 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. We know that a disaster and rioting in our streets is coming, and the number one cause of death after a disaster is contaminated water, because the average person can't go more than 3 days without clean water. You can run contaminated water through a Berkey and drink it immediately, which is why the missionaries choose Berkey. I recommend a Royal Berkey with 4 filters for a gift of $406 plus shipping. Call 785-266-1112 or go to prophecyclub.com and see our entire line of Berkey filters.